Travis Kelce was asked how he feels about the sitting president who publicly trashed his girlfriend by the by. Taylor Swift fans apparently are not happy about that answer.
That's awesome. It's a great honor. No matter who the president is, it's the biggest game of my life, and having the president there, it's the best country in the world, so it'd be pretty cool.
Should he have defended her, or was he...
You know he has a song with Taylor Swift. Is there any chance we could see a cameo from her during the performance?
I talked to Taylor this week.
When's the wedding? Because I've just got to book my fares.
Yes.
Do you really think I was going to come up with that?
Well, at least we can say there is one now.
Friday morning's Grammy nominations came with a big shock. Taylor Swift was completely MIA from the top categories. Where's Taylor? The singer, who's typically front and center for Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Album of the Year, was totally snubbed this time around. This definitely wasn't on anyone's radar. I mean, Swift has absolutely owned the Album of the Year category for the past decade, coming in second only to Adele in terms of wins. She took home the top prize in 2010 for Fearless, and again in 2016 with 1989. So to see her left out now was a serious head-scratcher. Let's rewind a bit to her 2017 album Reputation, which missed the eligibility cutoff for the 2018 Grammys. That album was instead up for the 2019 Grammys, which air next February. At the time, that seemed like a blessing in disguise. Why? Because the 2018 ceremony saw Bruno Mars totally clean up, winning in all the major categories, including Record, Song, and Album of the Year. So when Reputation was pushed to the 2019 Grammys, it seemed like an easy win for Taylor. The album had Album of the Year written all over it, plus her hit single Delicate was a strong contender for both Song and Record of the Year. Instead, Reputation snagged just one nomination, Best Pop Vocal Album. This marks a bit of a milestone, though not in a great way. It's the first album from Swift's pop era that didn't land an Album of the Year nod. Both Red and 1989 were in the running, with 1989 eventually taking home the trophy. Now, let's be real. Taylor Swift isn't entitled to a ton of Grammy nominations just because she's Taylor Swift. Reputation wasn't exactly blowing critics away when it first dropped. It had its fair share of mixed reviews. But if you look back at it now, it's easy to see how the album's grown on listeners over time. All those headlines surrounding Taylor's feuds with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, her romance with Joe Alwyn, and everything else have faded into the background. Reputation has aged better than expected. It's tighter and more focused than albums like Drake's Scorpion or Post Malone's Beer Bongs and Bentleys, both of which somehow scored Album of the Year noms this year. So while it didn't snag the nod this time around, Reputation definitely holds up against some of the competition. Swift's unexpected absence from the main Grammy categories this year kind of echoes what happened last year with Ed Sheeran. He was also pegged as a shoo-in for the top honors, but ended up getting shut out of album, artist, and Record of the Year races. But here's the twist. Taylor Swift has always been a bigger force at the Grammys than Ed Sheeran, which makes her exclusion even more shocking. Some might have seen a hint of this in 2018, when her Reputation lead single, Look What You Made Me Do, didn't score any nominations, despite dropping early enough to be in the running for the previous year's awards. That song was a pretty divisive pick, even among her die-hard fans, and its Grammy snub seemed more about the track itself than Taylor as an artist. Still, even without an album in the mix that year, she still racked up 2 nominations, one for Best Country Song with her writing credit on Little Big Town's Better Man, and another for Best Song Written for Visual Media with her 50 Shades Darker track, I Don't Want to Live Forever. It's kind of wild to think about, but Taylor Swift ended up with more Grammy nominations in her off year than she did when she actually had an album in the running. Last year, Look What You Made Me Do totally got shut out, and now Reputation has been left with just a single nod. This suggests that the Grammy voters might be cooling off on Swift, at least compared to the last time we saw her accept the Album of the Year trophy in 2016, when she gave that iconic fiery speech. But on the flip side, it's actually refreshing to see the Grammys shaking things up a bit. The major categories aren't just going to the usual megastars who get nominated just because they're, well, huge names. It's exciting to see artists like Kacey Musgraves and Janelle Monáe snag nominations for Album of the Year. These are established stars, sure, but they don't quite have the same giant profiles as Swift or Ariana Grande, who, by the way, is another major pop star who got snubbed this year. It's proof that the Grammys can still surprise us, even when the bigger names don't take home the top prizes. Here's the thing, though. There's definitely an argument to be made that the Grammys might be steering away from Taylor in favor of smaller, lesser-known artists who might not have gotten the same spotlight over the years. But that's not really how the Grammys work, is it? If this year's main categories were truly a celebration of representation and fresh faces, Swift's exclusion would make sense. But the Grammys are far from a noble process. They're more like an unpredictable rat race, where the so-called best albums are up against random picks that sometimes feel like names drawn from a hat just to fill out the categories. And let's talk about Post Malone for a second. If he can score an Album of the Year nomination, honestly, that kind of sums up the Grammys' taste in music and what they consider worthy of a win. So yeah, if Post Malone can make the cut, Swift definitely deserves some recognition in the main categories too. But while we sweated about the blatant partiality towards Taylor, here are some of the other biggest Grammy snubs over the years that will have your blood boiling. Number 5. Beyoncé's self-titled album. Beyoncé's string of Album of the Year losses has become one of the most talked about Grammy snubs ever, but the one that stings the most? When Beck's Morning Phase beat Beyoncé's surprise self-titled album. The album dropped out of nowhere. No promo, no warning, just a surprise iTunes release that had fans freaking out. With massive hits like Drunk in Love and Flawless Remix, it was one of the year's biggest talking points. Beyoncé's next big Grammy loss came in 2017 for Lemonade, but this time it softened a bit when Adele, who won, broke her trophy and gave half of it to Beyoncé, saying she deserved it more. Despite no pre-release buzz, Beyoncé went straight to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, proving her unstoppable star power. And let's not forget how Beck's win led to Kanye West's infamous stage-crashing moment, a hilarious repeat of his 2009 VMA incident with Taylor Swift, getting a big laugh from the crowd. Number 4. Swift's All Too Well. Song of the Year is about the songwriters, not the performers, so it's pretty wild that despite winning 14 Grammys, including 4 for Album of the Year, Taylor Swift has never taken home this particular award. Swift is an insanely talented songwriter, arguably one of the best of her generation, and while she's been nominated multiple times, her most heartbreaking loss came at the 2023 Grammys. She was up for Song of the Year with All Too Well 10-minute version from Red Taylor's version, a track many fans and critics have called her magnum opus. Everyone thought she had it in the bag, but when the winner was announced, it was Bonnie Raitt's Just Like That. While Raitt's song is beautiful, it was still a tough pill to swallow for Swifties, especially after waiting over a decade for a win in this category. Number 3. Mariah Carey's Hero. Mariah Carey, despite being a music legend with over 30 Grammy nominations, has only won 5 times. One major snub was for her empowering song Hero, which lost the Grammy for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance to Sheryl Crow's All I Wanna Do. However, Hero has stood the test of time, becoming an anthem of empowerment and even being performed at the 2001 America A Tribute to Heroes concert after 9/11, showing that its impact far exceeds any award. Number 2. Madonna's Like a Virgin. Madonna has won 7 Grammys in her career, but surprisingly, none were for her early work. She wasn't even nominated until 1986, and her iconic hit Like a Virgin and its album received no nominations at all. This snub is hard to understand, given how influential she was in pop music. It's likely tied to her unapologetic persona and the controversy surrounding the song, especially after her provocative 1984 VMA performance. Number 1. Katy Perry's Teenage Dream. Dominating the charts with 5 number 1 singles, a feat not seen since Michael Jackson. She even won a Special Achievement Award at the 2011 American Music Awards for the album. But despite its success, Teenage Dream didn't win Album of the Year at the Grammys that same year. Felt unfair that such a massive pop album with hits like California Girls and Firework, as well as emotional ballads like The One That Got Away, wasn't recognized for its impact. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.